Oh, that's ISO?
Rack it up, I got a bit of the bank to make me a safe house. Shake it up, she got her hands on her knees and she bringing the cake out. Smoke it up, I got some gas, some packs, I'm up in the greenhouse. Ball it up, I'm with the gang, we taking shots off the rebound.
Okay, welcome to Walking Out of Lockdown. Today I've got David Almeida Ribeiro. He's a film sound designer and culture protagonist. David, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
It has been a while, actually. I think the last time we saw each other in person was in Florence, no?
Yep.
Wow, that has been a few years. Yeah. Let's go back to New Year's. New Year's Day. What were your expectations for the coming year, both personal and professional?
Well, professional, it was an exceptional situation in the sense that usually there's not so much film activity over New Year's. After Christmas, there's like a break, and that's dependent on the weather, obviously. There's not so much going on over the late autumn, early part of the year, because it's over here in Austria, it's cold. There's not so many hours of light, so it's not like a reasonable time to shoot. However, I did have like exceptionally a feature film shoot, which started around the mid-end of January. So New Year's was, this time it was not such a calm period of the year where either you are optimistic or anxious about how the year will go, but it was like we're getting warmed up for the shoot taking place in a couple of weeks. So in that sense, it was exceptional, and it was good. It's obviously very good to start the year with a big project. Which gives you like gives you a cushion for in case spring doesn't bring as much as usual.
All right, so now 4 months later, and we will talk about lockdown, but 4 months later, how has your perception on that changed? How has the situation changed?
I guess there's two things. One thing is the inherent unpredictability of our field and of specifically my profession as a freelancer and specifically as a sound person. So I've been living with that ever since I started my freelancing career 13, 14 years ago. So a lot of feelings and a lot of this unpredictability is not new. So I found myself in having similar thoughts than basically other years and other times of my life and of my career, which maybe got amplified by this corona situation, but were not really surprising or unsettling in that sense.
Well, let me ask you a question right there, because you bring up an issue that a few people have discussed. It's true that a lot of us freelancers found ourselves with nothing as soon as the virus started, but it's also true that to most of this is not uncommon. There are periods when you just don't have anything and maybe we're more adaptable. Do you think that's an advantage to freelancers coming out of this?
I'm not sure if it's an advantage because I think it carries with it a degree of existential stress that I'm not quite sure if it's very positive and productive. Although I understand the concept of working under pressure and producing under pressure, I'm also aware that even people who are able to produce under stress, I think creativity achieves a peak when you're not under stress.
Yeah.
So getting used to it, I think it's more maybe out of necessity, but overall, I don't know if it's a desired state of things.
Okay. Did you find yourself during lockdown actually taking advantage of some of that to explore your creativity, to open up things that you wouldn't otherwise do. I have been looking at your photography lately, which I hadn't seen before, and I'm quite impressed. And I'm sure some of that started before lockdown, but as you say, less stress, not as many deadlines. Did you find this a period of creativity?
No, I cannot really say that I started anything new under this situation. I'm also, as you know, in film business, we have periods of extremely intensive work where you don't even have a personal life, or like the bare minimum, and you have periods where you don't have anything in between shoots, in between big projects. At least for me, it has been like that, especially because I mainly do cinema projects. So it's not like I'm doing like small promos or advertising, like small half-day, one-day projects constantly, week here, week there. So I've, these last 13, 14 years, I've always taken new creative projects on the side, which they've been there all these years. And the consequence now is that I cannot really say that I have more time to dedicate to them, because in between projects, I already had this time, so I could develop them and then go back to my work projects, and then go back to the hobby projects. So it's not like I was waiting for this opportunity to finally have time.
Yeah. Do you think much is going to change after this? I mean, you're talking about your process, which in very many ways could stay the same, but either because of production issues or because of just pipeline issues, or maybe not. Do you think there's going to be any significant changes for your business or for the work you're doing? Or is it more a matter of just, scaling back up again?
Well, no one knows at the moment how things will turn out. There's the level of the level of or the amount of unknown factors it's so big at every level, from the level of the worker to the level of the companies to the level of the government, that I think right now there's, everyone is trying to keep themselves busy in working out possible scenarios for the future. But I think everyone also knows that we are very far away from having reliable criteria, So I think for me personally, in terms of my attitude to what I do and to what I've chosen to do, if the market keeps giving me opportunities, I don't think I will radically change. I don't think I will. I don't feel like an essential unhappiness about what I do. Mm-hmm. But I've also been, the last couple of months, or the last 1.5 months, I've been following very, very, very closely all the developments in what our unions and associations have been talking about, what I've been talking with producers. I've also had, I've had canceled shoots. I had planned shoots for now, which have been canceled or put on hold. And I'm in contact with those people, and I'm gathering like all kinds of opinions and feedback and predictions. And it's the once again, the spectrum of possibilities for the future is very big, and the possibility of radical change in how the industry works is huge. So it's likely that things are going to change a lot. But I'm skeptical about believing. I'm waiting. What happens.
Let's just take a scenario. All right. Lockdown ends today. You're standing at the doorway. You're looking out at the doorway. You can do anything and everything you want. What's the first thing you want?
I want to go out drinking and dancing with my friends, you know.
It's a good answer. I like that answer very much. Yeah. Now, is there anything from lockdown that you did or that you thought or that you realized that you'd like to carry out of lockdown into your life?
I can't think of anything specifically. I don't know if it has, you know, the thing is, I don't know if it has to do with lockdown, but I've been in maybe it has amplified or it has accelerated my reflection about how to manage, how to emotionally manage this downtime when you're not working, and how much anxiety is positive, you know, regarding your future. And I think lockdown maybe. I think I'm managing like a healthier relation with time, you know, not hurrying up things so much. And you know, I obviously no one likes the thought that you progress your views under influence of external factors. You know, we want to be masters of our fate, you know. Yeah, but I think, but I do think that being limited in social, you know, social possibilities, mobility, and being restricted to a smaller space and being restricted to a smaller space in a bigger time, so to speak, you know. I think it has contributed to being able to slow down.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I know that our first week, you know, we have an NGO, we had projects in Peru, we had projects everywhere, and literally in one day. And even before lockdown came to Austria, because of our Italy connection, in one day, everything disappeared. We literally found ourselves with no projects, nothing going forward, grants were canceled, everything. And my initial reaction was anxiety, was, Jesus Christ, with this going on, how am I going to save things? But after about a week, I don't know if it was acceptance of lockdown or acceptance as a freelancer that this isn't that difference to September for me usually. You know, people go away for the summers, things kind of dry up, their vacation. I seem to get a healthier relationship, and it does come back. But did you find something similar? Did you find something different? What was your experience from the shock to then what you just said of feeling better of how you're managing time to deal with these issues?
I think this experience of lockdown put us a bit in our place, in the sense of maybe shifting the balance again to a more healthy equilibrium of what you can control and what you cannot control, and not worrying about what you cannot control, you know. And this huge, this constant bombarding with you have to produce, you have to perform to the deepest core of yourself, you have to perform yourself, you have to produce yourself. I think this it's a window to just look at that exaggerated pressure, you know.
Looking outside Vienna, what are your feelings on how lockdown, or more importantly, social distancing, is going to impact the culture going forward? Do you think it's a major impact for Austrians or not?
I think that's where this social distancing issue is exactly one of the has brought to light many cliches, you know,
oh, yeah.
which reveal themselves to be sort of true. I noticed, you know, of course, being on lockdown and you know, social contact reduced. Most of your impressions come through social media, But what I think they're not less valid because of that. But what I've noticed was that I had a feeling that this kind of social distancing in lockdown is very suits Austria very well.
I could not
Or
agree.
Vienna. Okay, I'll speak of Vienna because it's Austria is too
No,
broad.
I can tell you, Steiermark, I couldn't agree more. It seems to be the most natural thing to the Austrian culture.
Yeah, I think in a city these issues, or in Vienna at least, these issues are even more stark to see because people were happy suddenly not to have cheek kisses or handshakes or too much physical contact, or but I think it boils down to too much human contact, which people are. I think people are skeptical of enthusiastic human contact here. Skeptical of warmth that seems to be hiding for them some disappointment or some whatever.
No,
and in contrast to that, yeah.
No, it's interesting that you brought that up because one thing I noticed, and we live in the country, so I could walk through fields and walk down paths, and I have literally a private little island where people have a walking path on the other side of the river. So I could see everybody, and I've been walking there for years now, and nobody ever says hi from the other side of the river. They just kind of look at you. But suddenly, especially in the middle of it, people were stopping to wave and smile, something I don't usually experience most of the time. People notice I'm a foreigner quite early, and that always creates a little bit of, not tension, but maybe doubt, I don't know. But people were smiling and things like that. And now that things have opened up again, even though we're supposed to be wearing face masks, people only seem to do that in stores, but it's gone back to this, okay, we're kind of glad just to have to say hello and keep moving on. It's been a strange cycle here. I don't know about Vienna.
Yeah, I think I think it varies broadly according to cultural backgrounds and it's hard to generalize. I don't know. You also saw since the beginning of lockdown, you also got this. You got these news stories about people being completely oblivious to it and just ignoring it and being, reckless about it, or just ignoring and being in groups outside as if that also expressed a kind of anxiety of will this get any worse? Let's just be together before this gets any worse. And so I think on the other hand, there is obviously this longing for social activity and being out on the street. And I think it varies considerably depending on your cultural background.
Mm-hmm. All right, you're an audio man, and which means that you live a lot of your life noticing sounds. I must believe that a lot of your experience, your daily experience, is sound related. Last night we had a helicopter land just behind us. There's a doctor's office. It's not the first time, but it was quite close. But right away, a part of my mind heard that sound and thought, I wonder if they're picking up a case of coronavirus here, which we haven't had in our town. Have you noticed at all that your reaction to city sounds, ambulances, whatever, has been impacted by this as somebody who really, experiences sound probably more than most of us?
Yeah, well, it's impossible to ignore the overall much lower level of noise. Much lower level of amount of sound events going on. It's not as it's increasing again. But yeah, I mean, Vienna is a particularly silent city anyway. Mm-hmm. But sure, from the beginning of lockdown, there was also a lot of talk among sound nerds that there would come particularly good opportunities to record ambiences that are not that would be exceptional. Ambiences of places which normally are too crowded and maybe have too much noise preventing from capturing like a smooth ambience of the location. I'm thinking of particularly streets, particular squares, particular places where maybe, you know, you don't have the radio blaring from the kiosk, and now you just have like some passersby, an occasional car. So things are more are not as dense, you know. And yeah, and I've been out recording ambiences. I've been out on the outskirts of the city, and one of the things that we film sound people obviously notice is like the almost total absence of air traffic. You know?
Yeah.
So, you know.
It's just phenomenal. I can't say it from a sound perspective because I notice more vibrations, cars, trucks, things like that, even in the distance. And I notice that vacuum. And, you know, my downstairs neighbor is he's very into the conspiracy of chemtrails and things. And I don't know one way or the other. I don't get into it, but he's always pointing out how many lines there are in the sky. And to me, I guess I took it as somewhat normal. But in the middle of this, I was out walking in the field and I looked up and I suddenly had a flashback to childhood. And I realized that's how the sky had always looked to me. And I just somehow gotten used to it. And it was beautiful. It just filled me with this feeling of how beautiful the sky is without these trails going through it, you know? It's just, it's a unique situation. Let me just see something here. Yeah, all right. Is there anything that scares you or makes you nervous about lockdown ending? Or this phase of lockdown, let's call it?
Yeah, the not so immediate future makes me nervous.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's you know, like we were saying in the beginning, you know, we freelancers are we don't have the anxiety of being in a completely new situation, you know.
No.
We're also, in a way, if we don't have the privilege of having like a contract and a long-term association or a long-term stability, but many people who have had this long-term stability now are jobless, and suddenly they, you know, they've been maybe all their lives assuming that, you know, with a better or worse wages that this stability would remain. And I guess they're in a much darker emotional spot than we are.
Mm-hmm.
So that means I think we're prepared for, you know, we can deal with a couple of months more of this exceptional circumstance. But the thing is, people don't know how exceptional this really is right now, if the exceptional is going to remain longer. You know, I live, my family is not here. My family is in Portugal, and yeah, one thing that makes me slightly nervous is I don't have to deal with it every day because, you know, my dad doesn't live 2 kilometers from here, so
Yeah.
I don't have to like many people do, you know, talk with him over the garden fence.
Mm-hmm.
But I do ask myself, you know, when, you know, flights are going to be resumed to Portugal. I had one flight canceled in March, and I wanted to go there. And yeah, I ask myself, flights I will be able to physically travel to Portugal, but will I be able to hug my dad, you know? Will I be able to deal with the stress of, you know, I don't want to be the one passing him the virus, or, you know?
No, of course.
And for him, it's a worry. I worry, you know, when is it going to be a safe time for him to just do his normal life? I'm more worried than him, you know. I'm sure.
I'm sure, but you know, this is an issue. Look, I have been in lockdown since Italy, mainly because I have weak lungs. I get pneumonia. I get bronchitis. I had it just a year and a half ago, you know, so we decided early on, no, I'm not over 60, so I'm not in that, but I'm not that far away. Okay. And we decided early on that I would go through full lockdown. But, you know, I'm a photojournalist. I travel, I've been on expedition, things like that. This is not natural to me. I can only do this so long. And literally now, as we both noticed, I'm a caged lion or a caged, I don't know, chimpanzee. I don't care. Lion's too big for me, but a baboon there, big red ass, whole thing. And I can't do it anymore. And there comes a point where I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, I might risk it, but I can't do this only. It's been fine for 2 months, but this isn't my life. This isn't who I am. At a certain point, I find myself having to decide whether the risk versus the experience, which I choose. And I'm taking it slow, but it is an issue. I cannot, if another wave comes through, I don't know that I can stay inside again, you know? And I think each of us.
That's also one, you know, if you expand that to the social political arena, that's one of the more interesting things happening, you know, that this discussion, how much of our individual rights are going to be limited and how much are we willing to limit, because one thing is the individual decision, you know, we say, you know, we're going to take the risk and we're going to go out there and travel and expose ourselves. The other thing is, are we going to have a legal frame allowing us to do that and not repressing us or preventing us from do that? So I'm worried about you know, I'm worried about the political direction that things might take in Europe.
Yeah, definitely. And I should emphasize that, of course, everything I do safely. And I would never do something like that, what I'm talking about, that would expose anybody else to risk or anything like that. I'm not an adrenaline jockey. It's what I do for a living. But yeah, you're right. Will we be able to? And I know, yeah, I'm also probably in a unique position that with my credentials and stuff, I can do it. But that's one person. That's not all of society. And I think we're seeing in various places that already this is being used not just for the virus, but for a consolidation of power and rights. We've seen it, you know, around, I mean, forget Brazil, that's just an obvious case, but even in more subtle ways.
Sure, everywhere, I think, everywhere. Historically, it has been like that.
Yeah. All right, well, David, anything else you'd like to add?
No, I don't think I don't know. Mark, I could talk for hours with you, but I know. I forgot something.
Yeah, and we will. And I'm hoping that we can actually get into the same place at some time again soon, because that's where we really get to talk. And that's why I really enjoy it. And one of the things I've noticed in lockdown is how much I miss just not the Zoom thing, not the, you know, just real conversations with people. I mean, my thing for walking out the door is to sit at a cafe with a cup of coffee, watching people and just talking with one or two friends. Yeah. You know, just that, the conversation, the dialogue, the life around us. So yeah, I hope that comes back soon more than anything, because that to me is more important than all of this.
Rack it up, I got a bit of the bank to make me a safe house. Shake it up, she got her hands on her knees and she bringing the cake out. Smoke it up, I got some gas, some packs, I'm up in the greenhouse. Ball it up, I'm with the gang, we taking shots off the rebound.